Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sonia Keeve, and I am the CEO and founder of Sisters with the Voice Podcast Network. And I help women entrepreneurs every day to build, launch, and monetize their podcast in just 30 days. And so today, I want to talk about a topic entitled Why Podcasts Fail. So you see, I launched my very own podcast show back in 2018. It's called Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keeve. So you can find that podcast on all platforms where you download your podcast today. And in 2018, when I launched my podcast, I was having a hard time really finding women who were in this space who were truly thriving. Statistics show that there are 2 million podcast shows in the world, but I was finding it hard to connect with women who had a podcast and that were really thriving in the space. And they quit for many reasons. And that astonished me because for me as a podcaster, I was very clear on understanding why I wanted to be in this space. But I do recognize that for many, they may have started this journey in podcasting, but perhaps they have, for whatever reason, stopped doing the podcast. Life got in the way. There are myriad of reasons. And so I really wanted to dive in to really understand, especially for brand new podcasters who are excited, excuse me, who are excited when they first launch their podcast, but then at some point in the journey, they either lose their interest or they quit altogether. And so the first reason why I have found that many brand new podcasters end up quitting before they see their breakthrough in their podcast is number one, they don't have goals that they have set. You know, and have heard it many times in business or in life, anything that you want to succeed at, you've got to attribute and add some goals to why you want to accomplish that very thing that you want to. And so in podcasting, many fail to really set some goals, like what is going to be the overall goal for the show, and really setting some milestones, like what will you attribute as success for your podcast show? Will it be the number of downloads? Will it be more visibility? Will it be to connect with your ideal industry leaders? Will it be to help start a business? Everybody's reason is going to be different, but you have to set goals for your podcast show, because without setting goals, what's the point? Simply showing up is not going to be enough. So you have to decide for yourself, what goals or milestones will you set for your podcast show so that you know how well your show is doing, how are you hitting the goals that you set for the podcast? Because without a vision, the Bible says the people perish. So without a vision and goals for your podcast, you're doomed to fail before you even launch. Number two reason why people in podcasting, why their podcasts actually fail, is they have a failure to develop their authentic voice. Well, what does that mean? When I started my podcast show and I wanted to interview women from around the world that had stories of how they inspire others every single day, I created the platform off of Oprah Winfrey's Super Soul Sunday, because I absolutely love how masterfully Oprah has a way of interviewing her guests and being able to have these really genuine, organic, authentic conversations. But the thing that I knew was that I'm not Oprah, nor was I trying to be Oprah. I was only trying to be Sonia. And so when you're creating your podcast show, don't be afraid to be you. Many get super afraid of this microphone. And if you're someone who wants to start a podcast, but perhaps you're like, I don't like the sound of my voice. Let's try this. When you finish watching this broadcast, pop up your phone, pop up your laptop, record yourself speaking, and then delete it. Sometimes it's just the thing of just doing it that can take you 10 steps ahead of finally getting over the fear of speaking into your microphone. Don't try to emulate anyone else. People tune into Inspiring Nations 4 years later that this show has been around. It's because I truly believe in showing up as myself. I don't, there may be some things that I admire about other podcasters and how they interview, but at the end of the day, you have to show up as you, because it's hard to try to emulate or duplicate someone else. And just like for your podcast show, you have a particular passion and a particular purpose of why you have your show. So utilize your own true giftings, your own authentic voice, because people are tuning in to your podcast because of who you are, not because they're looking for you to be the next Oprah, not that they're looking for you to be that next individual that you admire the most. People tune in to those they know, like, and trust. And so how I am, as you see me right here, is the same person that you'll meet face to face. I am authentic in who I am. So own your zone of genius, own your beautiful voice. And to get over the fear of saying, I don't really like how my voice sounds recorded, go ahead and record it and then get it over with and delete it. So now guess what? You finally got over the fear of speaking about it, and now you can show up brilliantly as you are. Number third, the third reason why people, their podcasts fail is that they give up too soon. How many have heard the term, don't break down before your breakthrough? When you are first starting out your podcast show, unless you already have an amazing community, an amazing network, if you are just pivoting or trying to figure out your lane, try to figure out where you fit in to the space of podcasting, you're starting from ground zero. Okay. You're starting up from ground zero. And I know that there's some comments that are coming in. Hi, Uzor. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But going back to giving up too soon. So many brand new podcasters give up before they actually see a breakthrough. There are statistics that showed that most brand new podcasters, 50%, in fact, give up after the 7th episode. Why? Because maybe they're like, I don't have enough engagement, or nobody, really downloaded my show. I only had 10 people who listened to it, and I want this amazing global presence. Well, guess what? When you are building something from ground zero, it's going to take some time. So going back to that first point I said of setting some goals, let that be the goal. If you want more visibility, how do you get more visibility? You have to keep showing up. I don't care if you have 1 listener or 10 listeners or 10,000 listeners. If this space of podcasting is the thing that you love and you want to do, and you believe it can add value to your business, to your visibility, to your life, then it's something that you must continue to do and show up. I can tell you personally, when I started podcasting, I had somewhat of a community, but it did not really take off and grow until probably 6 months to a year out, because I was consistently putting out content every single week, interviewing amazing guests. And the more guests I interviewed and created the amazing experience that they were having on the show, guess what? I got to the point where I didn't have to seek out people to want to be a guest on my show. They simply tuned in because a prior guest or someone who listened to the show got resources, tips, inspiration. They got something that they could hold on to and they enjoyed the conversations. So guess what? They shared it with other people. And many of us in this space of podcasting, we give up too soon if we don't have 10,000 downloads, or we give up too soon if we feel like no one's listening. Sometimes it may require for you to kind of step back for just a moment and pivot to see, you know, is my message connecting to my audience? Because I've talked to former clients of mine when they've had a podcast show and they don't have a lot of engagement. And sometimes I find that engagement hasn't been there because, one, they haven't even told people they have a podcast show. People automatically assume once you tell them once, they're going to remember. No, they're not going to remember. So you have to keep putting in people's faces. It's just like when on television, we will watch our favorite movie or favorite television show. And how many times do we see a commercial that goes back to back, back to back, back to back? Sometimes I think marketing statistics show people have to have 7 to 10 different touch points before they finally make a buy-in decision. The same thing with your podcast. You've got to keep showing up. You got to keep delivering value, delivering your content. You can't say you have a weekly podcast show and you only show it once a month. So people give up too soon. So my encouragement to you is keep pushing into this space. Keep telling people about your podcast. Keep showing up, even if it's one person who watches this video or watches your, downloads your podcast show. Make sure that you keep showing up. And then the last reason why people fail to start a podcast is the lack of marketing. You've heard me just say it almost briefly moments ago. People will launch a podcast and they won't tell people they have a podcast show. They won't continue to drop an episode and say, hey guys, listen to the latest episode of my podcast show. I have met podcasters who tell me that their own friends or family didn't even know they started a podcast because they thought, oh, I'm just starting this little thing called a podcast. No, you are creating a global presence when you launch a podcast show. So I'm heard in over 164 countries, but that did not happen by me just showing up whenever I wanted to show up. It was the consistency of me dropping an episode, of letting people know that I have a podcast. When you are a podcaster, this is your baby. So unless you are paying someone to market and do your social media for you, guess who's in charge of delivering that marketing? You are. So you've got to be the one to show up. You've got to be the one to tell people, hey, I've got a podcast. In fact, you know what? You want to do it so much that people get sick of seeing your face and they're like, Lord, let me go ahead and download this podcast. And guess what? Once they download it and you already know the value you're going to deliver, guess what? They're going to be impressed. Tell people about your show. You'll get that visibility that you desire, and you'll continue to just thrive into the space. And so for those that are watching this live or may catch this in a replay, I'm Sonia Keeve. I'm the CEO and founder of Sisters with a Voice Podcast Network, helping women entrepreneurs build, launch, and monetize their podcast in just 30 days. And so today we're talking about why podcasts fail. And this is especially true for brand new podcasters who've launched the podcast, but whatever reason, 6 months, 3 months into the game, they've stopped podcasting. And I really wanted to understand the dynamics of why that is happening, because this space of podcasting is so powerful and gives you the visibility, credibility, and profitability for your business. I really wanted to understand like why people are failing at a tool, as I like to call the new sexy of networking, of why they're giving up before they have their breakthrough. And just to recap those points, number one, they fail because they don't have a lack of goals. They don't set any type of goals or milestones. So how will you ever know how successful your show is if you're not even setting goals? That's like getting into a car to drive somewhere without the GPS and having no destination. Gas is too high right now in the world to be just driving around nilly-willy, right? You need to have some goals set, some milestones that you want to set so that it can help you to really track and monitor how well your show is doing. Second reason why podcasts fail is you have a failure to develop your authentic voice. Stop trying to emulate and be someone you're not. Be who you are. Be comfortable in your own skin. I meet so many women, primarily who are super scared to talk into this tool, a microphone, to share their authentic voice. Most podcast shows are done audibly, right? And so you don't have to show up perfectly. I started my podcast not knowing a thing, but I just had this desire. I wanted to interview women from around the world and give them the visibility. That was the whole point of Inspiring Nations. And guess what it did for me? I got better at interviewing. I got better at connecting to people. But that happened over time. It wasn't overnight. I tell people every day, when I first started, I was super nervous. And when I was interviewing people, because I had that nervous, jittery energy, I talked very fast. So a lot of times, I was speaking very fast and also with a high pitched voice. And so I would be so excited. And this is how it would sound. Hello, welcome to Inspiring Nations. My name is Sonia Keeve. Da, 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 da. Because I had that nervous energy. But once I got comfortable in my own skin, and that was pushing through that fear, continuing to show up, then when I knew exactly who I was and the value that I delivered, when I introduced myself, it was, hello, welcome to Inspiring Nations. I am your host, Sonia Keeve. And today on the show, we are going to have XYZ guest. And let me tell you about her. And I would go into this comfortable zone. So same thing for you. Just like you talk to your friends about a good movie they should watch or a good book they should read or products they should purchase, use your authentic voice to show up, because guess what? People are going to tune in to hear you. They don't care about me because I have my own show. But when you create your own show, develop your own authentic voice, because people connect to those they know, like, and trust. Third reason why people fail in this space of podcasting is they give up too soon. Many people think, if I don't have 10,000 downloads by 6 months, then I'm a failure as a podcaster. Absolutely not. When you know the goals for your show, when you understand what is it that you want your listeners to walk away with as a result of listening to your show, if you're doing this thing because it matters to you, it resonates with you, then don't give up before you have your breakthrough. I found this quote the other day that says, many fail in this podcasting space because they sabotage themselves, because they make the show they think they should make instead of creating the show that they want to make. Let me say that again. People sabotage themselves in this podcasting space because they make the show they think they should make instead of the show that they want to make. See, we can get into our head with this analysis paralysis about, oh, I want to create I think I should create this show because this person said I should do this, or I should create this show because the statistics show that this is the kind of show that I think I should be making, instead of creating the show that they want to make. I created Inspiring Nations because I wanted to create a platform for women to tell their stories of how they inspire others every day. I didn't care what I didn't go to other people to say, hey, what kind of show do you think I should make? I created the show I wanted to make. And guess what? There were people I turned away because they weren't they weren't for the community that I was building. And I started with 0 viewership, right? So I created the show that I wanted to. And so the same thing is for you. Do not give up too soon when you don't see instant gratification. Podcasting is the long game. And so when you do that, you'll have a show that lasts forever. And then the final reason why people fail in podcasting is their lack of marketing. You have to show up. You have to advertise your podcast. Put it on social media. Every time a new episode drops, drop that episode. In fact, if you've been podcasting for a while, and it's been some time that people even heard a show from you, pull your old shows, drop those in, say, hey, check out this episode from 2000 whatever, where I interviewed XYZ person. Because guess what happens? You're now introducing, maybe possibly reintroducing yourself to a whole brand new audience of people that didn't even know that you had a show. So I hope these tips really help you to really understand this whole idea of being able to understand why podcasts fail so that you can overcome these failures and overcome these objections. And so if you're somebody who decides, I really want to launch a podcast in 2023, I want to invite you to join my cohort, and I'm going to help you get over all of these failures, all of these roadblocks. I'm going to help you to get clarity on your messaging, help you get clarity on your show ideas, and more importantly, have you to be in a space that will last forever. And so if you'd like to join my podcast cohort, it will be on January the 8th, 2023, called Launch Your Podcast in 30 Days. The tickler is at the bottom of how you can register and lock in your spot today. Just go to bit.ly/launch in 2023. And let's get your podcast off the ground. Let's stop sabotaging ourselves and start creating the tools and the platforms that you know that you're supposed to create. Don't worry about what other people think. What do you believe? What do you know? And let me show you how to create an amazing platform through podcasting so that you can stay in this space and enjoy your life, and more importantly, show up as your brilliant self. Well, thank you so much for the privilege of your time. Share this broadcast with anyone you know that can benefit from the information. And for more information on me or how to work with me, just go to my website at www.sonjakeeve, that's SONJAKEE, V as in Victor E.com. I look forward to connecting with you. And more importantly, I hope that you will consider launching your podcast today. Take care, and I'll see you soon.